their 4 years, they're walking around like this, and I'm like, yes, I don't care what you ran, like that's awesome. And then contribute to the sport by adding to the body of knowledge and sharing your knowledge. This is important to me as well. I wouldn't be where I'm at without great coaches giving me suggestions, answering my questions, writing books that I can read. So I talk as much as possible to different coaches. I'm not afraid to just like give my secrets to conference coaches or anything like that. I think that the more coaches that can create programs like ours, have the opportunity to do that, what a better world this would be for those student athletes. And just like, that's just awesome. And I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to do that. They can all come run for me, which would be better. But so what is an athlete? What is a Manchester cross country and track and field athlete? And this is what you'll find over and over within our program. When we're having a great culture, and culture shifts all the time. I'm not going to say, every year we've had the best culture and everybody loved each other and, gave a big hug at the end of every race. We've had difficult years when we've been winning. We've had phenomenal years when we haven't been winning in terms of culture. So we're always fueling the culture, directing the boat one way or another, hopefully back on target. But typically, our athletes, you're going to find that they're positive. The way that we train, the way that we affect everybody, what we continue to preach, caring about each other, that everybody on the team is important. You're going to find a positive environment. They want each other to succeed. They're not upset if somebody beats them that's on their team. They're excited because a Manchester uniform did something really, really awesome. So positive, encouraging. This one comes kind of with the sport. Cross-country track and field. If you've ever been to a cross-country race, it's awesome. Just hang out by the finish chute when people are finishing. And they're exhausted. It's kind of gross at times, okay? So I got to warn you there. But they fall down, and what happens? The person that's in front of them or right behind them, they might have beat them. They're picking that person up. I mean, it's so cool to be a part of a sport that does that just supports each other. They want to win. They want to beat each other. But at the end of the day, like, they understand how hard it is to be out there. And when the race is over, they're high-fiving people. They're congratulating people. And I mirror that with coaches. Any coach that has ever beat me in the conference, that day I go up to them and I make sure that they know that they did an awesome job. Like, if I'm getting beat, great job. Like, I appreciate that because I'm super competitive, and the next Monday I'm in the office, I'm gonna figure out a way to beat them next year. But we have to appreciate our competition. We have to appreciate each other and what they bring to our performances in such a greater environment than just a performance. It's everything in life. Hardworking. Our athletes are extremely hardworking. I don't like to use the word hardworking to them. I like to use the word consistency. That their training is so consistent. I'm so proud of your consistency. And why do I do that? Hard work, and words mean a lot to me. So this is one of them. Hard work. That's scary to me. Like, what's hard work? I feel like I have to go out there and I have to, give it 100%. Training doesn't work that way. Most of the time, we don't want to give it 100%. We want to run at 80% or 70% so that the body can develop the way that we want it to. So, and hardworking is also that there's no end to it. Like, I have to go harder. I have to go harder. Your body's going to break down. Your mind's going to break down. You're not going to succeed. Consistency is something that the athletes can control. They know. They get up and they do the run, and then they do it again the next day, and they do it again the next day. They've controlled their consistency, and that allows them to not worry about how hard they're training. Let me worry about that. All they have to do is show up and do the work. Show up and do the work. Just kind of a safer environment mentally, I think. They're humble. Yes and no. Most of the time we preach humility, and Enrique Salazar is on the board right now. He would always give the finger up when he would win his race. And I let him do that. But we definitely talk about being humble in victory, being appreciative in defeat. And it just allows them to understand that it's not a huge deal if they don't win, or if they do win, the huge deal is their consistency in training and how much time and effort they've put into their performance. We value team success over individual success. There's a lot of times where we'll run races in track and field, and we'll take the top 3 spots in an event. That's not uncommon for our distance team these days. You will find that those 3 distance guys or women, once they separate themselves from the group, from the rest of the competition, they are not fighting each other. They separated themselves, and they don't want to expend any more energy because maybe they have a race in a couple of hours. So they just cruise through. Whoever's in front wins, and they go on to the next race. Team success over individual success. Has a running filter free of distractions. We talk constantly about the student athletes. Every choice you make is going to affect your experience. It's going to affect it positively, it's going to affect it negatively, or it's going to be negligible. So what we want to do is we want to maximize our positive choices. We want to eliminate our negative choices, and we want to have fewer of the negligible choices. So whenever they make a choice, when they're in the servery, when they're trying to figure out what do I want to eat, and they get a whole bunch of greasy pizza, that's a choice that they made that is probably going to affect their run later that day. If you've ever run on greasy pizza, that's going to be uncomfortable. So I want them, they don't have to, I'm not forcing them to make the right choice. I just want them to recognize the choices. If they recognize the choices, then it's up to them. It empowers them to make choices that start to drift towards a better person, a better athlete, giving them that power and just communicating with them, it's up to you. I'm not going to make those choices. I just want you to recognize those choices. And then you have to live with the outcome of whatever choice you make. And I'm going to be here to support you, whatever that outcome is. And we're going to go forward, but we're going to continue to talk about those choices. So an athlete filter. Willing to step out of their comfort zones. This one is really important to us. A lot of times at the Division III level, 99% of the time at the Division III level, we're not getting state champions at Manchester. Okay, we're typically not getting athletes that made it to state. We're getting athletes that are from smaller programs, typically that feel comfortable at Manchester, that are typically not the superstars on their program. So they don't know what it's like necessarily to come to a program with all these kind of expectations all of a sudden, or what they feel as expectations. So we need to create situations for them to feel confident about themselves so that they can continue to step out of their comfort zone, so that they can gain confidence. Our training does that really well. We use heart rate monitors at Manchester. So heart rate monitor, all it does is it's a strap that goes around your chest, and then it monitors what your heart rate is. And so our athletes start to understand their bodies really well, and they use those numbers in order to train effectively. So when they're training effectively and they have this biofeedback, they're starting to become more confident in themselves because they know how much faster they're getting at the same effort level. And as that develops, they start racing better because they feel comfortable about where they're at. They know what their body's allowing them to give on any certain situation. So that's just one area where stepping out of their comfort zone, might be standing on a line at the start line and just having their shoulders back. That might be out of their comfort zone. They might want to typically try to hide. One thing we do about that, have you heard of the Wonder Woman pose? Some of you? Okay. Wonder Woman pose. Okay. I want my men and women to stand at the line like this. Okay. And science has proven that if we do this for a couple of minutes before we perform any activity, we're going to be more confident in that activity. So little tricks like that, we try to teach them. So that we have an advantage. At least they might have some false sense of I'm a superhero. Who doesn't want that at the start of a race? As a coach, I do. Willing to confront and diffuse problems. Because we talk about our culture so much, because we talk about being a good person so much, the athletes hear it over and over and over again. So they recognize typically when someone's not doing what they need to do in order for the team to succeed. And so they're really close. They're good friends. And so a lot of times I don't have to solve many problems. They solve it on their own because they want the team to be successful. And they know that's going to distract them. So here's something that I did this year. We have a bunch of freshmen on the cross country team. And we started off in a lot of different backgrounds, and some people made some poor choices, said some things that they shouldn't have said. And I recognized right away, we need to stop this. And so we do presentations with our cross country teams every year. We do talk about how to be a good teammate, talk about training, talk about nutrition, presentations, slideshows, everything, so that they understand as much as possible about the sport and about their own bodies. So anyways, I was ticked because I don't get upset with performances. I get upset when people aren't being good people. And that's what makes me mad when our athletes are acting like they shouldn't. So anyways, I noticed that we were not acting like good teammates. So I have a list of about 12 bullet points, what makes a successful teammate. And it's one of the things that I present. And so I came in that day and I put it on the wall and I gave a little talk with an elevated voice. I don't yell. And I told them that I have put this list up on the wall. Everyone in this room is going to memorize this list. And every day I'm going to pick one person and they are going to recite the list. And it's 12 things. And it's not just like one word, it's sentences. And I said, the reason that I'm doing this is because I want you to recognize that if you are doing something that is not on this list, that is direct violation of this list, I want you to know, because it's seared into your brain, that you are not being a good teammate. You can still make those choices, but I need to know for sure that you're making them to not be a good teammate, because you totally understand the list because you've memorized it. So what do? Every day, pick somebody. Tell you what, they knew it, every one of them, and our culture changed right then. And you have to do that as a leader, in my opinion. You have to recognize when things are taken away from the bigger picture of supporting each other, caring about each other, and you have to do something about it because it's your fault, right? Motivational. I like to think I'm pretty motivational. I'm motivational, I think, because I have emotion, okay? And I don't hide emotion. I cry all the time to the team, all the time. Like conference championships, when they do something amazing, like I'm in tears because, oh my gosh, like it's humbling to be a part of that, to watch them do something they've never done before, or be excited about something, or work so hard that they accomplish something. Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, and I just bawl like a little kid. But I think it's important for me not to stifle that as a male coach that presents himself kind of put together. My wife would say I'm a hot mess. I think it's important for our men and our women on the team to be able to see me have emotion. I think that's extremely powerful thing, and so I don't hide it. I don't turn away. I let them see the tears as I'm talking to them, as I'm blubbering. And I think that helps our program too. Like they know 1,000% that I care about them. And if I can get them to understand that I do care about them sincerely, like they're willing to do whatever to be successful. It's super humbling, super powerful. Effective communicator, again, going back to communication, we talked about all the ways that I do that. Respectful of others and personality differences. Remind them every year, like we have people on the team that are different sexual orientations, that might identify as transgender, that might come from a super conservative background, that might have all the resources in the world back home and might not have a nickel back home. And that's what we get at Manchester. We get this huge melting pot. And at that age, at 18 years old, they have a hard time looking beyond themselves. And rightfully so, they haven't had many experiences. So what a great opportunity for me, since I get to see them every day, is to challenge them about differences and remind them that everybody's different. And the reason somebody's making a choice or acting a certain way isn't typically because they're a bad person. It's because their experiences growing up have created a situation where that's their reaction. And so the human behavior aspect of it, I try to get them to understand, like human behavior can be changed, but some human behavior takes a long time for change. And it can be messy. And so if there's something going on in the team, the best thing to do is care, support, and hopefully, that person comes around and feels like it's a safe place. Sets a good example. I want our student athletes volunteering. I want our student athletes sitting in the front of the classroom. I want our student athletes finding ways to serve their communities. This is really important because they are leaders in their own way. You know, they've hopefully built this confident person that works hard, that's a good student, and now they get to present themselves in the world. And I want them to do that way beyond the time that I'm in front of them if they're on the track and field cross country teams at practices or at meets. You know, I want to hear from professors that, hey, so-and-so is doing an awesome job, or, oh my gosh, they're, you know, rocking it in this science seminar. Things like that makes me really, really proud. Yeah, so that's what we do at Manchester. That's what we do. That's what we try to inspire. And our student athletes are so fun to be around. And again, been doing it for 26 years. I've had offers to go Division I and turn them down really, really quickly because of the opportunities that I have here at Manchester to support student athletes that aren't necessarily coming from places where they are superstars, and they deserve to feel like superstars. Any questions? Everybody ready to go for a mile run? Yeah.
How do you set basic academic expectations for your athletes?
So basic academic expectations. So I don't have a chart. I don't do study tables. I don't do those things because the same thing with training the human body, every individual in a learning experience needs something specific for them. So if I had set study tables, for example, it's going to be a waste of time for the majority of our athletes. Some athletes that really need help probably need a tutor over just sitting in a classroom for an hour or so. So what we do is we monitor their academics, and I'm very fortunate. Our men and women the cross-country teams, the women's GPA this year was a team 3.7. The guys was a 3.5. We had 3 women on the team with 4.0s. Like, they were super high academics. So a lot of times I don't have to do anything, and I'm not going to say like I am the reason that they are successful academically. But what we do is when someone is struggling, then we bring them in and we figure out a success plan for that person. Maybe it's communicating with the professor a little bit better. So since I've been here for 26 years, most of the professors know me. They know that I come from a good place. Like I want this student athlete to be successful in all aspects. And so they're willing to work with me. Not that professors would ever not work with somebody. And so we can communicate that way. We can get help sooner the way that the student athlete needs it. Maybe it is study tables. If it is study tables that person needs, and they just need a distraction, a place without distractions that they can learn, then we'll set that up. If it's getting a tutor, maybe they feel uncomfortable getting a tutor, and so we'll set that up. Maybe they just need to, maybe it's deeper than, making it to class. Maybe the reason they're not making it to class is because, emotionally they're just struggling. So we connect them with our support when it comes to counseling services, which are awesome. We have such great services here at Manchester for our students, but a lot of times they either don't know or they don't know how to start it. And so I feel like that's my job, is to help them on a process to be successful. So that's how we do academics. It's no different than training. I'm not going to have a young man coming out of high school that's run 20 miles a week. I'm not going to put him to 100 miles a week. I'm going to gradually build him up to 25 to 30, so on and so forth, so that he can find success that way. The same as with learning. The only thing that I do is the triangle of success seating arrangement. You heard of that? So if you sit in a triangle facing the front, your odds are you're going to have a better grade. So that's how I start them off. Sit in the triangle. Big line towards the front, and it just kind of funnels back. Sit in the triangle. So now they think they're going to be smarter just because I said that. They're like, oh, I'm going to get a better grade. And then now they're more confident. It's all about building confidence, making sure that they understand that we care about them and we want to see them succeed in all aspects of their life. Yeah.
How do your teams develop their own culture? I mean, we were teachers at an institution where the cross-country teams had these wild nicknames and training practices and things like that. How do they do that?
Well, you have a lot of time to talk with your teammates while you're out on an 18-mile training run. So conversation can go any direction. The cool thing about distance running is that camaraderie. You have an hour with your teammates. It's not like basketball where you're doing drills or you're scrimmaging, where all you're focused on is the game. With our sport, yes, we have time to where we can't talk because the workout's too tough. But the majority of the time, we're running what we call recovery runs, which is 65 to 75% of the maximum heart rate. You can talk during that time. So the culture is built a lot of times through just the training aspect of things. But I really put a lot of time and energy in fueling our culture. So do they do weird stuff? All the freaking time. They're such dorks, and I love it. They're always together. They finish their run. They go to dinner together. They go hang out for 4 or 5 hours. They reserve rooms and we'll play board games. Someone will study. They'll put a movie on. They'll just be together. Then, in the morning, they'll see themselves in the classes. They'll eat lunch together. They're just always together. So they create this hive, safety in numbers. They're tiny people, safety in numbers. And they're just goofy. They do what we do in college, or what we should do in college. Just, be ourselves, have fun with our friends. That's how it's created. But I'm always, guiding that ship, telling them care about each other. This is why. I'll do a little, 5-minute session, do a little game that, gets them to think a little bit differently, or, always telling them that everybody's important. Make sure that you're taking time for everybody. And so they just feed off of that because they understand that's what's going to make them successful in academics, past college, just because we're always talking about it every day. But they're weirdos, and I love them. I love the weirdos. Yeah, and here's the thing, like, the weirder they are, odds are they're only going to have cross-country friends. And what are they going to do? They're probably just going to train. I want to recruit the weirdest men and women. Yeah.
You mentioned recruiting. How do you handle that? Because you have to get good athletes, basically, to have good teams.
We have to get good athletes to have good teams. Actually, we develop really well these days, our student athletes. We take average people coming out of high school and make them some of the best in the nation. It's really fun to watch. We do that over and over. But we don't get superstars coming out of high school. I'm fortunate. My daughter's going to come to Manchester and run for me, which I absolutely am humbled by. She's the best recruit I've ever had on paper. Can't mess that up. Her mom will be mad at me. But we cast a wide net. So as of right now, and this is men's and women's cross country and track and field, we've had about 160 individual visits so far since August. We recruit like crazy, and we try to convince people, we try to get them the hard way. We try to get them to like us, because odds are they're going to get offers. There's a ton of NAIA schools around, and they can get scholarships to go to those. We got to convince them that this experience is going to be worth the price of admissions. And so it's cultivating. I have great assistant coaches. We constantly communicate with them. We try to get them to understand that we care about them even before they get to Manchester, that they're important. The same thing that we're trying to do with the team. We're just trying to do it through text and going to meets. And I love my job. Don't get me wrong, but I get one Saturday from August until May. One Saturday, and it's in December. All the other Saturdays I am working. I'm either at a meet with our team or I am recruiting. And I've been able to double dip. I've been able to recruit and watch my daughter on the off weekend. So I've been able to double dip a little bit, but that's what we have to do in order to be successful. We have to constantly be selling our product. We need approximately 40 to 50 freshmen every year. Yep. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's fun. We hear no way more than we hear yes. And so you're just like, you're always losing. And I hate to lose. But when the wins happen, it's really, really fun.
Other questions?
I don't know if you have this issue at all in your. I have a friend who's a tennis coach.
Okay.
And the hardest thing for him is to sit down and talk to one of the people out for tennis who he knows, maybe they're in their junior year, or it is not going to be one of the, 14 players on the team. The person can continue to come out and practice and all of that, but they're not going to be one of the people that he puts out on court.
Yeah.
Against another team.
Does that person have JV opportunity? Do they have a chance to play at all during the season?
He tries to. Sometimes other teams have those players too, and they play them against each other. But it's not going to be.
Yeah.
It's not going to be one of the players that the team depends on.
So, a couple of things with that. I believe the power of 4 years. So I believe that any good coach can take any student athlete coming in, and if they give them time and energy that they need, that person can develop the skills over 4 years. It's 4 years. It's so much time. You're telling me that if we inspire that kid to pick up a racket 6 days out of the week and hit the ball for a half hour, like that kid's going to get really good over 4 years. But odds are that kid's not doing that. Okay, so that's one thing, is like we have to inspire them if they want to be a part of it and they want to see that success, and that's part of their goals. This is what it's going to take, and then you encourage them when they do well. Now, if they go through, like we have student athletes on our team, and especially in the distance side of things, we're pretty good, and we're limited on the number of athletes that we can put in our conference championship. So we do have seniors that have never been a part of our conference championship, and I think that person has been on the team for 4 years. That person typically recognizes where they stack up. Okay. So it's our jobs as coaches to make sure that they understand that what they're doing is still really important. Like how much better they give them things that they can show their development. Keep data, how many times they get a serve in or things like that, or whatever they're working. Give them goals, give them opportunities to achieve those goals, and then celebrate those goals. Because that person is still a part of the program. Like they need to develop, even if they're not on your championship teams or even able to play. They need to feel important, or kick them off the team. If they are on your roster, they deserve as much as anybody else. And it's tough when there's roster limitations when it comes to like playing time. That's tough, and it's something I typically have to deal with. But I mean, we have people on the team that are miles behind, our top 7 or our top finishers, miles behind. But that person knows that I care about them, because every time they do get the opportunity to race or practice, I'm celebrating them. Like, what you just did, like I'm hyping them up. And so that's going to keep them around. That's going to keep them encouraged. They want to be a part of something that makes them feel special. They want to be a part of something where they know that somebody's got their back, that is going to look out for them, that cares about them, and will support them through choices. That's what coaching is about. It's not about the wins or the development. Like that stuff's so easy. It's in every book, like how to create plays, or how to train the human body. It's so simple. What we miss is like the culture aspect of it, and that the real power comes from inspiring, caring, and uplifting these young men and women. That's why we're successful for as long as we've been. Like this, it's a ridiculously humbling experience I've had over the last 15, 20 years. And that's why though, and you'll get superstars out of it. Like we have a young woman that graduated last year in her freshman year at Manchester. She was a cross country runner, and we had 70 women in the cross country championship, and she only beat 5 women. Her senior year, only 3 women beat her. Like the development is if we just care, give them opportunities to develop. And it takes time, and it's annoying because, you know, you're not typically focused on, you know, that kind of a person, but those kind of people, those are my favorite because I know what they can become. Yeah. Does that help? That's just how I would approach it. But I refuse to quit. I'm stubborn as heck, and I want everybody to know they're important. So I would be relentless with that person.
Okay. Well, I see Brian every once in a while when I happen to be outside and when it's better weather than right now, jogging around Timbercrest. Sometimes I've seen his daughters with him.
If she lets me.
Okay. Well, and I know at least one. Did both of your daughters go to the state championship?
Just Ayla.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ava. She's the one who's coming here.
Mhm.
Okay. So anyway, he's a great fellow, and so is his family.
Thank you.
And so it's really amazing the amount of time, like he said, that he puts into this job on the weekends too, and the successes that he's achieved for the both cross country and track and field teams. So thanks for coming, Brian. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you guys for having me.
Next month, our speaker is going to be Dr. Tim Brock. He's a math professor, so I'm especially interested in that. And his topic is artificial intelligence. We can all use a little of that, can't we? And we got a couple in in April, Dr. Pamela Haynes. She's Assistant Director of Academic Affairs and Study Away Coordinator. So she's going to talk about Study Away program at the university. And May 13th, Garrett Schifferstein.
Yeah, that's us. I just want to say I'm so glad I went before all these people because they are all awesome. So I didn't want to let you down coming at the end of that road.
Don't put yourself down, Brian. You're awesome. But he's a director of esports. Whoa. So it's a little different sport from running. But anyway, so thanks for coming, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Gary.